Well, good evening, everybody. For those of you who don't know me, my name is David Brashear. I'm the director of the Muscarelle, and I just want to welcome you tonight. It's a thrill to have a nice crowd for our opening lecture for our Michelangelo exhibition. How many of you have seen the exhibition so far? All right, great. The good news is many of you have seen it. The other good news is many of you still need to see it, so come back and spend some time with us. The exhibition is really a unique circumstance here at William & Mary and, quite frankly, in the United States. We've done major art exhibitions here at the Muscarelle in the past, notably working with our Italian partners on two previous Michelangelo exhibitions in 2010 and 2013. We did an exhibition on Leonardo in 2015 and on Botticelli in 2017. And so this exhibition really is a continuation of our very strong relationships with Italian institutions and also the great interaction of scholars between William & Mary and these institutions in Italy. We're here till May 28th. We are expecting crowds to continue to get larger and larger, so please think about bringing your friends and think about making reservations, and we really look forward to seeing you. We do have a number of other events, as is my habit when we make these, when we have these presentations and when I make the introductions. I like to remind people about what else we have coming down the pike. And we actually have something interesting on Thursday night this week. We have the author Paul Hendrickson, who wrote the book about Frank Lloyd Wright's life and some of the key tragedies he endured, Plagued by Fire. He's going to be speaking here on Thursday evening in an event that we're collaborating with William & Mary's libraries on. Oops. And I think there were supposed to be a few other slides, but they're not here. So I'll tell you what else is going on. We have another lecture coming down the pike that will be discussing some of the work that Adriano did for his research and some connectivity between what goes on in the painted architecture of the Sistine Chapel and what a project was that he created, Michelangelo created for Pope Julius II's tomb, one of the earliest project assignments that Michelangelo received from Pope Julius II. I want to just spend a couple of minutes talking about our curator for this exhibition, Adriano Marinazzo. Some of you have probably seen the catalog. Some of you may already own the catalog for the exhibition. That's a compilation of Adriano's great work and also the essays from a number of different scholars from some of the partner organizations we worked with. But I want to tell you, if you've been to the exhibition, you know how spectacular the installation is, how creative the design of the exhibition is, and that can really all be credited to Adriano's design. He worked very closely with members of our team and a number of our contractors to get all of the galleries arranged exactly as designed with the important mission of making the connection between these very small drawings and what the actual end product was as Michelangelo put the frescoes on the ceiling and also on the end wall of the Sistine Chapel. Adriano has spent a long time, many years of his life, focused in on the works of Michelangelo. He notably worked for many years, was first a student in Florence and then worked for many years at Casa Buonarroti, which is the home base for much of Michelangelo's work. The works that aren't in regular museums are typically part of the collections of Casa Buonarroti, Buonarroti, of course, being Michelangelo's last name. And we've worked very closely on a number of occasions with Casa Buonarroti, and for this exhibition with them, as well as with the Uffizi Museum, with the Musei Reali in Turin, with the Virginia Museum of Fine Arts, and also in very close collaboration with the Vatican Museums, all of which are relationships that have been strengthened even more with Adriano's great work on this exhibition. So please join me in welcoming Adriano to give this great lecture.
Thank you, David. Thank you very much. Thank you for coming. and Michelangelo, the genesis of the Sistine. Michelangelo, and especially the Sistine ceiling, I think probably is the most studied artwork in the last 5 centuries, the Sistine ceiling fresco. Now, a question can be made, what we can say new, fresh, original about a work that is so well known. And Michelangelo, the genesis of the Sistine, tried to achieve this ambitious goal to say something new through Michelangelo's preparatory drawings. We have half of the drawings, surviving drawings by Michelangelo, for the Sistine Chapel frescoes. And this is a very, very big deal, because there are only 45, maybe a little bit more, a couple more, surviving drawings by Michelangelo for the Sistine ceiling. As Vasari, a friend of Michelangelo and Michelangelo biographer, Giorgio Vasari, wrote that Michelangelo, before dying, he destroyed all his drawings in casa, in his home and workshop in Rome. And he didn't want to show his labors, so his secrets, his modus operandi, he would not appear less than perfect, meaning he didn't think that the drawings were a work of art, but just working tools to be just for Michelangelo and not for public display. Now, when Michelangelo died in February 18th, 1564, Leonardo, his nephew, went from Florence to Rome because he wanted to bring Michelangelo, the dead body of Michelangelo, back in Florence for the funeral. And Leonardo started to recollect the drawings by Michelangelo in Rome and then in Florence. So the family, the Buonarroti family, the family of Michelangelo, lived in Casa Buonarroti in Via Ghibellina in Florence, that you see in this picture here, the outside, and they started to collect the drawings, the letters, the poem by Michelangelo. This is the inside of Casa Buonarroti, one of the galleries. And in Casa Buonarroti, there is this, it's me, this in 2012. I didn't change much, right? In 2012, this is me in the Casa Buonarroti drawings room. So I was studying Michelangelo's drawings, and next to the drawings room, there is another room, the Buonarroti archive, that here is not, I don't have any photos. So picture this old place, archive, dusty atmosphere, old tables, dim lit, very mysterious place, fascinating. It's like, you know, one of Dan Brown novels, for real. And I came across this piece of paper. There is a sonnet by Michelangelo on the top. I was reading this sonnet, it's not easy. And then I noticed this little sketch here. And since I'm also an architect, I thought this is an architectural drawing, sketch, Nobody knew what it was, why Michelangelo did this, the reason of this drawing. And, but after a little bit, I thought maybe this is a ceiling, right? So if we put together Michelangelo, the name Michelangelo, plus the word ceiling, equals Sistine, right? Sistine Chapel. And after this epiphany, I thought I needed to do a comparison and see if I'm right, this idea is right. So this is there is no trick here, no any, is a real, the drawing, and that is small like this, compared to a photo of the ceiling. And you can see the lunettes and the spandrels. So I published this discovery in a peer-reviewed journal, Commentari d'Arte, very old journal. And so scholars agreed to this finding, and I explain in this article that I believe this might be the first surviving drawing, the earliest drawing by Michelangelo for the Sistine Chapel. So the beginning, the genesis of the masterpiece. Back then, that evening, started the idea of the exhibition you can enjoy upstairs. Now, as David was mentioning, the exhibition, the idea of Genesis, beginning, is not just about these drawings, it's about other topics. One, I will address this one, the connection, the possible connection between the tomb of Julius II, the first project of the tomb, to the ceiling. I believe Michelangelo painted in some way this project now lost. We don't know how it was. And this will be the subject of my next lecture in April, Michelangelo, the tomb and the vault. Now, but the idea of Genesis is more connected to beginning, the first step of the creation. So it's about these preparatory drawings that make the exhibition upstairs. And in art history terms, they are known as primi pensieri, also in the English language. So primi pensieri means first thoughts, first ideas. We can see here one of the sketches, these first ideas, that is quite close to the final outcome of the fresco. But I want to spend a few words before talking about some of the drawings in the exhibition. I will talk just about a few because I want to leave some space for imagination, and then you can visit the exhibition. So the first step, the beginning, was creating, for Michelangelo, creating these preparatory drawings, okay? Then he will drew large-scale drawings on cartoons, okay? These cartoons then were applied on a wet plaster with the help of the assistant. And they will transfer the drawings from the cartoon to the wet plaster. Basically, the assistants will perforate the outline of the drawing, then with charcoal dust, they will wrap the outline of the drawings along the perforations. So they will transfer the drawing to the wet plaster. This technique is called spolvero. And then Michelangelo will paint the wet plaster, okay? Now, on the left, you see one of the most beautiful drawings by Michelangelo. also according to this famous distinguished scholar by Michelangelo, Frederick Hart, and it is about the prophet Zachariah. And I want to show this is also came from the Uffizi Gallery, is upstairs. And you can see is still visible in the forehead, the spolvero technique. Now, the assistant of Michelangelo will prepare each day, each giornata, day of work, a portion of a wet plaster to be painted, okay? So I prepared this for the lecture. This is a one giornata. I know for sure it's not, there is a book where you can see the different giornate. So Michelangelo will painted this in one day. The assistant will prepare the wet plaster. The plaster will dry up in, let's say, a few hours, 10 hours maybe. So he needed to paint to be fast, and then no mistake was allowed. So you should be very skillful, very fast, and if you did a mistake, then you will destroy the painting because no edits was possible. This is another giornata. So the wet plaster, you would paint with water-based colors, they two bond, and then the outcome lasts forever, like the Sistine Chapel fresco. When it dry. Now, this was in few words the process of Michelangelo, and but the topic of the exhibition really is the preparatory drawings. Now, we have in the exhibition not just a collection of drawings about the Sistine ceiling, my personal research about those drawings that I spent, like David was saying, about 15 years doing it. So you see my research in form of an exhibition. So let's talk about these two drawings. These two drawings are, that you see, these two nudes are apostles, okay? These two fragments came from the Uffizi Gallery, and they've never been on display in the United States. So we have many drawings never displayed in the United States before, including these two. Now, these two are apostles. So Michelangelo, when the Pope commissioned to Michelangelo the ceiling, he asked Michelangelo to paint 12 apostles. So Michelangelo started to do this first design of apostles. And these two drawings are referred to that first step. And then Michelangelo thought it was too simple. So according to the words of Michelangelo, Michelangelo wrote a letter a few years later, and he said to a person, I told the Pope that painting only the apostles would be cosa povera, poor thing. And the Pope asked, why? And I said, because they were poor themselves. So this little joke. And then the Pope, according to Michelangelo, said to him, do whatever you want. Now, what is new, we discovered, so when I selected these two fragments, I thought that the two fragments belonged to the same piece of paper originally. So we did some examination with Laura Donati and Fabrizio Michelozzi from the Uffizi. And so they confirmed the idea, my idea of the two belonging to the same piece of paper. And you can see, basically, this is on the left, the examination is transmitted light. Basically, the light is behind the drawings and come through the drawing, and on the other side, you can see the structure of the drawing, okay, of the paper. So the paper was made by filoni, that are chain lines, vertical, and vergelle, laid lines, horizontal. And you can see, I don't know if you can see it, but from my screen I can see it, the filone that start the first fragment and then continues on the second. You can see it? So that is proof that the two belong together. And now for the first time after, I don't know how many centuries, they are reunited thanks to the Muscarelle. And you can see upstairs in the same frame the first idea for the Sistine ceiling, the 12 apostles. So in order to paint the ceiling, Michelangelo needed to reach the ceiling. So the ceiling is 65 feet above the ground, okay? He needed to build a scaffolding, and we see this important document from the Uffizi Gallery. There are different studies by Michelangelo. On top is the body, the torso, legs of God, of the creation of Adam, a study. Then two study for legs, for the nudes of the Sistine ceiling. And this sketch in the corner that is preparatory for the building of the scaffolding, to build the scaffolding, for the design of the scaffolding. So Michelangelo is a self-portrait. Michelangelo is on the scaffolding, painting the ceiling. And he did that drawing to show his assistant how to build the scaffolding. Now, do you see an additional drawing in this slide? Where? No, the legs, I can see those also. But let's say, no, this is the verso, is a drawing in the back of the. So you need to know this. Michelangelo used to hide clues or drawings in his sheets. And he used to draw with a metal point painted phantom drawings. When he was not sure what to do, he didn't want to waste paper with ink or charcoal. And paper was expensive, he was a bit frugal, so he would use a metal point, okay? So to mark, engrave the paper. Now, thanks to technology, I highlighted this hidden drawing, and you can see the rounded lines and that profile of a person that I think is close or similar to the sketch in ink in the corner. I believe this is the first drawing, the hidden one, that Michelangelo did in this piece into this piece on this piece of paper, and preparatory of the one that is in the corner. Okay, so but thanks to new technology, we can show things that like the two apostles or this hidden drawing. Now, after Michelangelo built the scaffolding, he started to paint. The first half of the painting is highlighted. Then he dismantled the first part of the scaffolding and rebuilt the scaffolding to paint the second part, because the chapel needed to be functional, because they did masses Okay, the Pope was there, the cardinals. And so the painting was done in 2 different stages. Okay, this is the second part. The first part, when Michelangelo dismantled the scaffolding, he had the opportunity to see the paintings from the ground floor, from the ground, and he thought he would do, for the next part, less in numbers, figures, but bigger, more monumental, okay? And he did that. Now, this is the outline of the Sistine ceiling. As you know, in the center part, in the center, Michelangelo painted 9 stories from the book of Genesis, and then around the central part, he painted 5 symbols and 7 prophets, these large figures here, seated. And in the lunette spandrels, he painted the ancestor of Christ, while in the penditives, the 4 penditives, he painted 4 stories of the salvation of Israel. Okay? That's the first painting seen from the book of Genesis was the flood. Now, he started to paint from the left to the right. Okay? The left is the entrance, the right is the altar wall. So he started to paint the stories of Noah, and he ended with the stories of creation. Obviously, in Genesis, the story of creation comes first. So it's chronologically the opposite. Now, this is the first scene he painted, the flood. And I believe this is the first drawing, or one of the first drawing for the first painting. And you can see it's starting to have this primi pensieri about organizing the painting. But what is interesting, I found out that probably this sketch was part also of the one of the apostles. You see there is a mark with ink on top that continues in that fragment on the left. Can you see it? So this means that if, as I said, the 2 apostles, the apostles are an early design of the ceiling, so one of the first drawing, and this other drawing about the deluge, the flood, was part of the same piece of paper, so also this is an early, very early drawing by Michelangelo for the ceiling. Now, I'm showing you sketches that are very raw, very first ideas, very fast, not very defined, but Michelangelo did also for the ceiling some sporadic portraits, like this one that is really a masterpiece, with this diagonal hatching that is very beautiful and delicate. And you can see it's very close to the final painting. And there is this mutual feeling of sad resignation to the divine will. But what is very important is that you can find in any serious volume about art history, especially Renaissance history, art history, you will find this document. So this very famous document is a sonnet with a sketch by Michelangelo from Casa Buonarroti. This sonnet was written by Michelangelo, addressing a sent to Giovanni da Pistoia, a friend of Michelangelo, which I believe is the same friend he sent the first sonnet we just saw a few slides before with the profile of the Sistine ceiling. In this sonnet, Michelangelo is complaining about the hardship in painting, standing, and painting for 4 years the ceiling. And in the last paragraph, stanza, is writing, "O Giovanni, please defend my honor, because this is not my art. I'm not a painter, I'm a sculptor." I'm paraphrasing, but this is the meaning. And the drawing is about is him, it's a self-portrait again. Is him standing on the scaffolding and painting the ceiling, okay? Now, in the exhibition, I propose for the first time in any exhibition this audacious comparison. So it can be a coincidence or an unconscious creation by Michelangelo. So I rotated the self-portrait, and you see Michelangelo is stretching, is looking to his creation. He's stretching with his right arm toward his creation. And the brush doesn't touch the painting, it's close, but it's creating the painting. And like God is a rendition of God in the Sistine ceiling, also God is looking to Adam. Also God is stretching with his right arm. And his index, right index, is almost touching his creation, Adam. So it's a bold comparison, but Michelangelo's nickname was Il Divino, the divine one. So he also believed to be a messenger of God. There are many letters he refers like to be like at the service of God, and he was really religious. And when he was old, Pope Paul III asked Michelangelo to be the chief architect of St. Peter, the new Basilica of St. Peter, the largest cathedral in the world. So it was a big task for an old man. He didn't want to do it, like he didn't want to paint the ceiling. When for the ceiling, Pope Julius II asked Michelangelo to paint the ceiling, Michelangelo said to the Pope, "This is not my art," right? Meaning, I'm not a painter. So when the Pope asked to be the chief architect of St. Peter, then Michelangelo agreed. And a few years later, he wrote in a letter, I was put there by God. So he believed really to be a messenger of God. So he played with this idea of divine. Now, this is one of the most important drawings of the entire Renaissance, one of the Sibyl, Sibilla Cumana. And you can see this is came from the Biblioteca Reale, the Royal Library of Turin. But if you go upstairs and you look closely, you have the opportunity to see the pentimenti. So pentimenti means correction. Pentimento, pentirsi means to repent, but in this case, in art history, means corrections. So you can see the chin, the lips. There is a pentimento, so it's starting different solutions. So this is we are lucky because we can go upstairs and see all these details. Now, these drawings of the previous slides are about the first part of the ceiling, the first half of the decoration. They are in the second gallery. In the third gallery upstairs, we will see a few drawings that are about the second stage of the decoration, including this. This is also from Casa Buonarroti, never been in the United States before, and very rarely displayed because you have to know these drawings are very fragile. So when they will go back in Italy, they will rest for 5 years probably, because they are very fragile, they cannot be exposed to light, etc., etc. Now, scholars think that this sketch of a right arm is related to a lost painting by Michelangelo, but I believe this is related to the Sistine Chapel and to Adam. Now, do you see something off about this reproduction of Adam? Something that is not quite wrong. Bravo. So it's reverted, it's horizontally flipped, okay? And I believe that Michelangelo, his first idea was to paint Adam on the right, and God to the left. Like Jacopo della Quercia, creation of Adam, that Michelangelo knew very well, because he went to Bologna, he knew Jacopo della Quercia work, as he knew Paolo Uccello, creation of Adam, that is in Florence. He knew also both of this work. And you see in the traditional iconography, so God is on to the left, and Adam to the right, and they touch or connect each other with both with the right arm. That is the right hand and arm are the hand or arm of God, right? Not to the left, it's the right. So, but Michelangelo, you see, painted Adam on the left, and God on the right. So Adam is stretching with his left arm, not with his right arm. Why? Because he wanted also to show the torso of both. Okay, if he will paint if Adam will stretch with his right arm, he will show his back. Okay, so for Michelangelo, the torso was the most important part of a human body. And I believe that his first idea was to paint like the old masters did, Adam on the right and God on the left. So this is a clue that I think I might be right. So another, if you see, this is a very delicate, beautiful portrait by Michelangelo with red chalk, diagonal hatching, and it's very beautiful. And you see this chiaroscuro, foreshortening, perspective, and I think it's related to the figure of Jonah, but again, if you see something off about this reproduction, it's the same of that before of Adam is flipped, okay? Because Michelangelo, I know this for sure, one, he was conflicted to paint Jonah looking to his left, like in this painting reproduction, or to his right, like he did for the final fresco. But as you can see from this beautiful drawing, maybe his first idea was to paint Jonah in this way, flipped. And we have also another double side drawing where you can see the leg, the left leg of Jonah that is very close to the leg or left leg of Jonah in the painting if it's flipped. So I think his first idea was to paint Jonah looking to his left. Now, what is interesting, in the verso, the back of this sheet, there is another hidden drawing. And I highlighted with high contrast, a digital application, this sketch, I believe, is a female figure, is a sculpture of a Sibyl, I think, a study. And on the right, this is a sculpture for the tomb of Julius II that is now in San Pietro in Vincoli in Rome, in the church of San Pietro in Vincoli. And this was started by Michelangelo and then finished by his assistant. It's not the most beautiful work of Michelangelo because he just started this. He didn't finish. But I want to show you this because I want you to understand he was working in the same piece of paper. He was thinking different projects. And I will explain in April for the next lecture, Michelangelo, the tomb and the vault, how these two important projects were connected. And I have found different clues, including these, in the artworks that are upstairs. Now, I wanted to include in the exhibition also something about the Last Judgment. So, Michelangelo did two paintings, two frescoes in the Sistine Chapel. One was the ceiling, and 30 years later, he completed another painting, that fresco, that was the Last Judgment that you see in this picture, on the altar wall of the chapel, of the Sistine Chapel. Now, ironically, the conclusion of the Sistine ceiling happened when Michelangelo painted the Last Judgment. Why? Because he destroyed the painting on the wall that were painted some by Perugino, and the two lunettes on the top were painted by him 30 years before. So he destroyed those and replaced with the new painting. In some way, the decoration of the ceiling was completed with the Last Judgment. Now, this is very beautiful, to me, drawing by Michelangelo. I think it's like almost a contemporary drawing. You see different pentimenti about the head, the position of the head, of the arms. It's almost cinematic. And you can see he's thinking how to render Jesus Christ as the judge, to give this dramatic posture, movement. And it's very beautiful, very interesting. It's also double side. And this is also a drawing from the Uffizi Gallery of the central part of the Last Judgment. You see, I think this is one of the first ideas for the Last Judgment. You see the Virgin is looking toward Jesus, his son, while in the painting is looking away. And what is very nice that I noticed this little detail of two souls embracing each other that then Michelangelo painted in a different way on the wall. Now, the exhibition of the last gallery of the exhibition, there are no artworks by Michelangelo, is a study, a research of painted architecture by Michelangelo on the Sistine ceiling. That, by the way, this painted architecture that you see highlighted here was the first component that Michelangelo painted. So it's still part of the Genesis, right? I did a video, and we will present this in a few days for the Art and Science Exchange. So I hope you will be there for this beautiful event. This is one still image of the video. Now, as I said, this is a research exhibition. I don't like, when I go to a museum, I don't read the labels, even if I don't know the subject. So, and I don't like long labels. So I wrote super long labels. Because we wrote also the credits. This is a research exhibition, so meaning it's not just, collecting different beautiful pictures, but as some kind of process that went for many years. So we talked with David, Melissa, and others, what was the strategy, and then we decided to explain, and also because we are a university department, so we want to give information that are valuable, with also the comparison with the fresco. Now, again, with David and all the Muscarelle team, we thought about the installation. And we thought we wanted to have, with the drawings, also large-scale reproduction of the painting, okay? So in this way, we give an idea to the visitors of the full scale of the project. So the ability of Michelangelo to translate from the very small, the drawings, to the very large monumental paintings. And that was a very difficult task, especially on the scaffolding, that was very close painting, very close to the surface of the ceiling. And then you see here these two reproductions, and then you see the drawing of Adam, a study of Adam from Casa Buonarroti. And here, this is a nude, and then you see also the drawing. And you can have a beautiful juxtaposition of the two, like in this case, Jonah and the drawing. Now, we also have this life-size reproduction of the Sistine painting, the most iconic painting in art history, with probably the Mona Lisa of Leonardo. And is a life-size reproduction. It's mathematically exact. I spent a little bit of time to figure out the dimensions. So I think it's very interesting, especially for young people, kids, to go and stay next to the reproduction, see the scale, how small we are in comparison to Michelangelo's work. And to close this presentation, again, here we see Jonah. Jonah was the last painting, prophet painted by Michelangelo, and is looking at the creation of Michelangelo, at the creation of God, like we look when we go into the Sistine Chapel. We do like glance up, like looking up, like Jonah does, right? And I think this is still the simple but profound meaning of Michelangelo's ceiling fresco is an invitation to us to look up, to look to God, the universe, the creation, and its genesis. Thank you. Okay, any questions?
I have a question.
Uh-oh,
I'm from Delaware.
okay.
So when is the field trip to the Sistine Chapel? Huh?
We needed to book it now for the 2026. At least 1 year before, yeah. It's true. But we can do it. Please.
When you were studying God and Adam,
Yes.
did you hear anything? I've heard several theories of just wondering of who the female is that God has his arm around and who he is pointing to.
Somebody think it's Eve, the first female. But these are speculations. I don't think they are any particular people. I don't think there is any real meaning. They are just supporting God. But there are speculations, including the female as Eve. And this is your question, what is interesting, because it's so full of possible interpretation, the Sistine ceiling, that make interesting to everybody. It's not just something that is still, we are trying to figure out the meaning. So thank you for your question.
I've been I've been very, very curious after seeing these sketches and seeing them again because you can't stay away. What kind of paper could have lasted that long? We do see the age spots. How was that treated? And how, it sounds like there really was no great effort early on at preservation.
Yes, it's like, clothes, old clothes produced, I don't know, 50 years ago, they last more than new one. They knew how to make this stuff before. So no, there is no any treatment, anything. It's just old paper. But since it was made, the work of Michelangelo was on this piece of papers, was always preserved in a way that now is still preserved.
Hi, I have a question for you from
What guy?
in that book. When I was a young girl, I went to visit and I saw the painting at the end on the altar. She's just showing it to you. There's a gentleman in the corner who's wrapped with a snake. Do you know the story about him?
It is Minos.
Minos. And who is that man? I understood that it was Michelangelo's revenge for giving him such a hard time. He put him in hell.
Yeah, yes. Yes, there are, like the question before, there are many interpretations of many other figures. So you're talking about Minos here. But there is also this one. So this is for many scholars, is a self-portrait of Michelangelo, skin, held by this person that maybe is a Pietro Aretino. Pietro Aretino was a poet, a writer, an author, contemporary to Michelangelo. Initially was a friend of Michelangelo, And then they became enemy because Pietro Aretino was a very harsh critic of Michelangelo because of this painting, because there were too many nudes. And Michelangelo was upset.
So you want to keep them on your right side.
Yeah.
Thank you for a wonderful presentation.
Thank you.
Was there any rhyme or reason to whether he used red chalk, black chalk, or silver point? Was there some technical?
Yeah. Yeah, the metal point, as I said, was more when he was trying different options. And the chalk is, the red one usually is used for portraits, and because it gave to Michelangelo more options for the chiaroscuro, the shading, and the chalk was more for the body, usually, the black chalk, usually.
We have a couple of questions from online. When Michelangelo painted the chapel ceiling, I was told he left a fingerprint. It was discovered when it was cleaned in the 1960s. Is this true or false?
I don't know, I never heard of it.
Okay.
But it's possible that it's true.
Here's one, and I'm going to paraphrase it and not go into the deep details, but of course the scaffolding is very high up from the ground.
Yes.
And one has a life to live, one has to eat. Was it difficult to get up and down off the scaffolding, do we know?
No. There were stairs, obviously, and what was problematic about the scaffolding, that the scaffolding was above the windows. So the scaffolding was close to the ceiling. So during summers was very hot. And during winter was very cold. Then there was not light because it was above the windows. And so there were problems, logistical problems, but they would go up with no problems. And every day, once per day, obviously.
Great. And then the last question is talking about the exhibition and whether it was held all or in part in Italy before it came here. And I think this is a really good point that we ought to make as part of our presentation and maybe as a closing note. And then I'll turn it back over to you, Adriano. As Adriano mentioned, Renaissance era drawings are very delicate, very fragile. They're generally allowed by Italian authorities and other museum professionals around the world to be exposed to light for 12 weeks, about every 3 to 5 years. We made the conscious decision here as we gathered this rare collection of works together to hold them for the entire 12 weeks. So this is the only place this exhibition will ever be until perhaps someone recreates it 5 or 10 or 50 years down the road. We think this is a pretty unique gathering of these drawings. Do we know of an instance previously where they were all put together in one exhibition?
No.
So it's only here. It's only here until May 28th, and these drawings may never be together again.
Also because, thank you, David, also because there are a few items that, so there is one drawing that was never on display, the one with the sketch of the ceiling. There is one letter by a friend of Michelangelo that was helping Michelangelo with the preparation of the ceiling that was never on display before. There are many firsts, and the two apostles, they never been together. And the two sonnets sent to the same person, friend, Giovanni da Pistoia, never been together. So, yeah, this is the first time. And I think we are, thank you again. Please come to the other events, enjoy the exhibition. Thank you.